I don't know how his pills got mixed up, honest.
Oh, really? Well, that's a shame, considering that's your actual job.
I've been up my mind with worry.
Oh, save it. And in case I'm being too cryptic, that means you're sacked. Ken don't need any of this, right? I'm sorry if you thought that was a bit harsh, but, with Ken's age and everything,
I understand. I would like to visit him when he's settled.
Well, I'm sure he'd like that as well, Roy, so thank you.
Your vegetarian sausage.
Oh. The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 333 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that... Ooh, I'm Gavin.
Well, that was annoying. And
Hey.
I'm...
Hey, you want to talk annoying? You want to try to edit this shit once in a while.
It's almost as bad as Justin rides again on the guitar poorly.
No, I think that was more annoying than that.
And I'm going viral on Blue Sky. And shout out and hello to Gail Platt, Loves Olives, who I believe at this point is the only listener of this podcast to also follow me on Blue Sky.
Huh?
So is the only one who actually gets to see some auction talk stuff.
Oh,
No, not yet.
Because you did mention it.
Yeah.
The rule typically is that I have to hit that button now. Auction talk, so it feels like it's
It's
incomplete.
fine. It's fine. Yeah. So by Blue Sky post that is closing in on 1,000 likes, probably will hit 1,000 likes by the end of the day.
Not that you're like chasing.
No, I'm not.
No,
Because
it's
I
just the
don't do
first
that.
thing you told me when I woke up this morning.
Right. Yeah. But that's not me like chasing.
No.
I just made a post and lots of people liked it. Mm-hmm. Is a post in which I say it is a thing of joy that a book signed by Joan Didion is worth more than a book signed by Newt Gingrich.
So it was an aloof post as well.
Right. And kind of geared directly into the heart of the people of the Blue Sky.
Yeah.
And it's funny
God bless that echo chamber, right?
because I could have picked the signed book by Condoleezza Rice or the signed book by Sarah Palin, but I think I made the right choice by going with Newt Gingrich.
Newt Gingrich lends itself better to jokes. It's
Yes.
a better punchline.
Yes.
Because it contains the word newt.
Yes.
And newts are funny.
Yeah.
Even though probably most people can't picture a newt. If you were to ask them, they would probably picture just like a lizard or a frog.
Well, more like a salamander.
Well, that's if you know what a newt... You're missing the point.
No, I get it. It's like born on this day to Mr. and Mrs. Gingrich,
Dr. and Mrs. Gingrich.
a boy child named Newt.
I don't know, Betsy. He looks like a newt to me. Is it short for something? Is it short for Newton, maybe?
I don't know. I think it's just Newt.
If only there was a way we could find out.
Because isn't
And I thought it was Gingrich.
Gingrich?
It's ch. It is Newton. It's short for Newton.
It is short for
Hey,
Newton.
look at me
Hey,
knowing
look at
things
you.
accidentally.
Look at you. I'd rather hang out with Sir Isaac Newton or who's that country singer whose last name is Newton? Juice Newton. And actually, I think she's more of a pop singer. Anyway, how was your week?
My week was bestowed with a sore toe.
It was. It's very sad.
It's kind of better this morning. But when it gets kind of snowy and cold outside, my big toe on my right foot gets very sore.
Yes.
A legacy from dropping a garbage bin on it and I think breaking something in it.
And this is opposed to the toe that you broke, dropping a bed on it.
Yes.
When we first moved into this house, which
Which
used
still
to be right
twinges.
here.
Which still twinges 11 years later.
We are seated where that bed used to lie.
Fucking hate that bed.
Well, it's gone now.
So, yes, last couple of days has been kind of toe related.
Yeah,
It's hard to think of other different things when.
when your toe hurts.
So, how about you?
It's funny. I have worn enclosed toe shoes for the first time this week.
It's chilly outside.
Yes, because we got a little bit of snow, and I wore my red boots, and they're fine, and they fit really well, and they walking around they're very comfortable. But when I'm sitting in the car and I'm driving the car, the right one is like a little tight on the side, but only when I'm sitting and driving.
That's weird.
Yeah, I think maybe because I'm moving it a lot up and down as I pump on the gas.
We're still talking about shoes, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, how have you been?
Oh, well, good. You know, working hard, hardly working. Except for that one day where I ate cold fried chicken in the Kroger's parking lot and cried.
Which is just the most depressing thing. Maybe the most depressing sentence that you've ever uttered.
And I was only there because I was driving around Lansing desperately trying to find the Kroger that had the individual Friendly's ice cream cakes for our daughter's birthday, because she's like, I want one where it's just for me and Benny won't get any of it. And you know what? Fair enough, because Benny finished off the giant ice cream cake and you and I only got one slice. And Nick didn't get any.
Well, he doesn't live here, so that seems fair.
Oh. He's going to be here today because we're going to go see Wicked. Are you excited?
No,
You excited to go see Wicked with a bunch of band kids?
no, because I've just found out that it's part 1 of 2.
Yeah, but it's the majority of it. It goes up to intermission. It's got all the good stuff. All the good songs are in this one.
I'm
I
not
don't
really
know what
going
they're
for
gonna-
the songs.
I don't know what they're going to do for part 2 because part 2 is only like an hour long. So I imagine there will be some padding there. But
So that's going to put me off a little bit.
It's-
I'm only going to hear Popular, and that's it. That's the only thing
Well,
I'm really interested in.
this is the one that has Popular in it.
And then I might just go and have a little game on the big truck driver arcade game that's in the foyer.
I don't think we're going to get to see Gladiator 2 this weekend. Are you sad about that?
No.
Even though it's got the Paul Mescal in it.
It is getting very bad reviews
Is it?
that I'm seeing.
I've heard good things.
I have not heard a single good thing about it.
What, you were in the car when the guy
This
on
lasts
Fresh
for
Air.
2 hours and 40 minutes,
Yeah.
which is probably longer than the actual play runs for.
No, the actual play is over 3 hours.
So it's close then.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I've forced you to agree with me. Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that agreeable Corrie news.
According to Sharon Marshall, this morning's Queen of the Soap, Joel
Who
was...
follows us on all social medias.
Does she?
So be nice.
Joel was not in a body bag. It was a trick of the light, allegedly.
That seems like a viable excuse, but I don't think the show made any effort whatsoever to remove any ambiguity around about it. When you look at it and you want to see a wet jacket, it kind of looks like a wet jacket.
Yeah, to me it looked like a wet jacket.
But it's too long and it's the wrong colour.
But then that one and that's like the floaty picture. But that one picture that you showed me, that's definitely a body bag.
It looks very much like it's made of some kind of vinyl.
Right, and you don't see a face.
No.
There's no head there.
Or arms.
No,
Or legs.
it's a bag.
Yes.
So in one picture you can say it was a trick of the light, but in that other picture it's very much a body bag.
It very much looks
Unless
like it.
he's upside down and only has one giant leg.
Let's not rule that out. But yeah, it's if they wanted to make it look like a jacket, all he needed to do was to have his... Remember, we had Leo's hand Leo's green hand.
Yes.
So we've kind of seen decomposing things on the show before.
Right.
But you didn't even need to show it close up. Just show like the arm and the hand in a kind of dead body-esque position.
Right. Like I said, when the whole floating scene, it kind of looked like there were... I could see two distinct legs for that. But then the shot where the kids who are fishing and drinking beer see him for the first time, which is the picture that you showed me last week that shut me up, is a body bag.
See, I think if you were to watch that floating scene again, you'd maybe struggle to see the legs. I think maybe your mind has filled the legs in.
No, because I wouldn't have argued so hard last week.
Well,
anyway.
Yes, you would have.
Anyway, Bev Collard is stepping down from her duties as Wicked stepmother in the Welsh Christmas panto due to a shoulder injury, and will be replaced by fellow Corrie alum John Thompson as the Body Baron. So, not only does a woman lose her job, but she loses it to a man.
Well, if I was to lose my job, I'd be replaced by John Thompson, because John Thompson seems to be replacing quite a few people.
It is the era of the John Thompson resurgence.
But only in a secondary role. He's always the second person to think of. Because he's replacing Sean Wilson as Gail's
Yes.
exit story, apparently. And now replacing Bev Callard in Panto. And then on this podcast next week,
the part of Gav will be played by John Thompson. If we can get him.
he's in high secondary demand.
Yes. And finally, congrats to Helen Worth and Peter Ash, who both picked up Royal Television Society Northwest Awards last night. So it was a good thing that, we haven't even mentioned this. We are doing this podcast on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
We're actually drinking coffee this week.
And I actually think we're fairly alert considering it's 7:20 in the morning. Anyway, good effort on Corrie News this morning. Shows you what you can do when you're not rushed to produce it on a Friday night.
Yeah, rather, it shows what you can do when you are barely awake on a Friday night. After standing outside in the cold to watch your child march by with a trombone and not play it.
Anyway, smooth sailing through Corrie News is continued as we enter the feedback phase of the podcast that I like to call Everyone's a Critic. Tara writes this week, picture it. Coronation Street, 10 years from now. Steve has had 3 more kids, all from one night stands. Ken still going strong. Hope has just escaped from prison during a riot she started.
Is there a How I Met Your Mother DVD involved?
And Helen is still asking, who paid for the fireworks? Something we can all look forward to, Tara.
Yes, because I still haven't gotten any answers. I'm assuming...
Do you know the idea of still doing this podcast 10 years from now? When I'm in my 60s? Well, that's depressing.
Aw,
Jennifer
we must
writes,
do it for the people.
and then Jennifer writes, one of the hardest things I do is wait to listen to this podcast until Sunday night. It's part of my self-care routine to prepare for the week.
Aw,
Isn't that humbling?
that is humbling and so lovely.
Thank you, Jennifer. Then Not Racist Sharon writes in, hello, Dev and Sunita. Hope you're both well. What a load of old cobblers the climax to Joel's killer storyline was, and to be honest, I didn't care except to say, if Lauren and Max killed him, how did they get in a bag? Let's not pick at that scab again. No one in the storyline means anything to me. It would have been better to spend the time on an established character, I don't know, like Gail, who's had 50 years, and not 10 minutes with these come-and-go characters. I often say how Helen yawns, but I also heard you yawning as well this time, Gavin.
Ooh.
Guilty as charged, I think.
I think there will be less yawning this week as it is Saturday morning.
Should be more yawning.
We're not about ready to go to bed.
So Joel and Dee Dee did the deed. Talking of come and go, I see Tracy is back again. Helen said baby Frankie looked like a melon. I thought more of a kiwi, and I think David and Shona will end up with him, and we will talk about that, I guess, at a later point.
Yes.
Keep up the good work. My favourite podcast of the week. Thank you very much. Not Racist Sharon. Another humbling post.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we don't get any Gail this week.
No, I don't think. Did we get any last week? Maybe just a scene or two?
Yeah. And yet we're in the Platt House quite a bit this week.
Yeah.
It's depressing.
It feels like Helen Worth has retired already, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
And fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think the show could be doing a better job in this regard.
Yes.
Then Aussie Ali writes, glad you enjoyed the Iron Brew. I'm still enjoying the Iron Brew. I've still got some of that left.
Yes.
I realised I had never had one myself, so I wandered down to the shops while listening to last week's episode and tried it for the first time. It was surprisingly enjoyable.
Yes.
As much as I enjoyed you giving hell to Helen, she's going to have to do a little better than oi 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 to insult me. It cracks me up every single time she says it, even though I know she's going to say it. But the moment of the week was definitely Helen's comment about who should look after Frankie if Lauren goes to prison. You can just give him to Toya. It had me howling. This week saw the introduction of some pairings I never knew I needed. Sally and Betsy brought the fun back to the factory floor, but not like that. Drunk Swain and Ryan can't wait for the duet next karaoke-a-thon. And Mason has really traded up with Tim. It reminds me of how good Sally and Tim were with Maddie. Thanks again for keeping us entertained. Thank you, Aussie Ali. I don't really remember Sally and Tim with Maddie. Maddie was one of Sophie's girlfriends.
Uh-huh.
And I remember Sally being horrible to her to begin with.
Right.
But I don't think I remember how that story panned out. I'll need to check it out.
Yeah. I do agree, though. I think Tim is an upgrade from Stu.
Oh, no offence to
No offence.
Stu or Bill Fellows.
No, because we love the Bill Fellows and his testicles.
Indeed. But, I don't know, it just works better. And it works better with Sally being involved as well.
Yes.
As do most things. And then Cheeky writes, it's really hard to put into words what I felt about this week. I find Coronation Street to be going in a direction that I feel is the absolute opposite of what the original mission was. That mission was to provide a show that was about Mancunian people going about their working daily lives and the struggles they encounter, something that you mention occasionally on the
we
show.
do.
Helen. This week, we had Ken being poisoned by Cassie, with Tracy taking the blame. I hated this idea because it meant that she's going to continue to get away with it just to keep her job and keep her closeness to Ken. We'll speak of this also
Yes, we
later.
will.
Carla and Lisa finally got together, which was really beautiful to see their connection, but I was completely destroyed by the fact that Betsy continues to try and get herself into difficult situations, especially with Mason's dim brothers, and in general doesn't really know how to fight her own way out. Lastly, and most importantly, Max, even though he's now legally an adult, has grown into a grown baby, trying to save and look after Lauren's baby and Lauren herself, rather than understanding his responsibility as a stepfather and looking to the cops. Look, I know I screwed up. I know Lauren screwed up, but we were faced with an unbelievable challenge and didn't know how to handle it properly. Instead, he goes on the defensive continuously, trying to think that because he finally told the truth, the cops will be forgiven. That's not how that works. That's not how any of that works. And I can only hope that with a new executive producer coming in, they go back to following the original concept of the show at large, because it's now going dark for dark's sake. Thank you very much for that, Cheeky. I agree with an awful lot of it.
Yes. Yes. I agree with, I think, all of it.
The storylines this week seem to uniformly take a turn, and I kind of felt that something that should have been fairly joyous ended on a rather sour note. But we will get to that.
Yes.
Thank you very much to Cheeky, to Aussie Ali, to Not Racist Sharon, to Jennifer and to Tara for their feedback this week. We very much appreciate it. It's always welcome. Send us your thoughts and I will probably read them out. Get us at the talk of the street at gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. Or we love it when people write actual letters to us. Send your proper mail, not your junk mail, to the talk of the street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827. And please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, but only in the interests of brevity. And now, let's podcast for coffee. We're drinking our own coffees this week. And we are
I'm
drinking coffee.
That's the funny thing. You also have a peach tea.
I do, because I don't think this coffee is going to last very long.
Yeah. And I also have a full glass of cranberry juice. Ironically, cranberry juice features in my third most liked Blue Sky Skeet.
Not that you're not chasing likes, though, Helen.
No. I was just curious when I was scrolling down. So the second one is you in your I Hate People t-shirt.
I do hate people.
And then the third is a picture of cranberry juice at a grocery store where the store has put a surprise UTI ? Little tag by the cranberry juice. And I reskeeted it and said, perfection, no notes. And 84 people liked that.
I do like looking at people's shopping in supermarkets, and I have seen on a number of occasions people with cranberry juice and natural yogurt. And we won't say any more about that.
No.
The talk of the street is, and what happened there?
I don't know.
The talk of the street is, and the talk of the street is,
It's a surprise UTI.
not again. The talk of the street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street. You can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. And we now have a Patreon site where you can also show us some love. Sign up as a friend of the podcast there at patreon.com/the talk of the street. Although I have to say about that, if you're thinking about signing up to be a friend of the podcast through Patreon, don't sign up through your Apple phone. Apple take 30% of that.
What?
And then Patreon take another 10% off it.
What?
So if you're paying
That's fucked up, man.
$2, I think $1.20 gets us. And it's proportionate, obviously.
Yes.
So if you sign up to be a patron through a desktop or through Android, that doesn't happen.
Right.
But Apple, they're greedy little hectors.
Yeah. First they
They
took
want 30% of our coffee money.
first
Shitbags.
they took away the earbud jack, and then they started selling their phones without a charger, and now this.
It's just insult upon injury.
Fuck you, ghost of Steve Jobs.
And Michael Fassbender.
Yes. Well, yes. But that's true every day.
I was watching Frank last night.
Uh-huh.
With my toe, I was not in the mood for it. All right. Shall we dive in then, my dear?
Yes, please.
Our first storyline this week is Dee Dee up the Duff. On Monday.
Can I just start by saying I fucking hate this storyline, and fuck you to Coronation Street for fucking up yet another character who has a very distinct character trait, which has been enforced all the way through the introduction of this character, and then you just flush it down the toilet. Go fuck yourself. Please continue, Gav.
A very profane introduction to this week's recap. Fuck yeah. And then we start the week looking like last week, with a kind of flashback looking thing with some horrible incidental music that
dream.
everybody hates.
It's a dream sequence, people. It's a dream sequence.
Well,
Fire up the klaxons.
Well, I thought
Everybody in the basement.
it was a flashback that then was a flash forward. I thought we were really getting lost. But anyway, it turns out to be a dream. Dee Dee going for a baby scan with Joel looming over her. She wakes from her nightmare to her door buzzer and quickly hides her pregnancy test that she'd taken out the cupboard for no good reason, and hides it poorly behind a pink clutch bag, just as Michael comes in to dump glory on her because Dee Dee doesn't have to work or anything. Dee Dee's best friend Sarah comes round to check on her just as Glory finds the pregnancy test and gives it to Sarah as a present.
Have Sarah and Dee Dee ever spoken before this moment where Sarah just randomly shows up at her house to ask her how she's doing because she knows about bad boyfriends?
I think they've been in each other's orbit through Adam.
Yeah.
but I don't remember many scenes of just the two of them together.
Right. Or one
And,
of them
oh
just
my God.
dropping in on the other.
The show makes up for that this week.
Yeah, now they're besties. I guess now that Paul's dead, Dee Dee doesn't have a bestie on the street.
So, Dee Dee confirms that yes, that's her pregnancy test, and Joel is the dad.
But she
Or
hasn't taken it.
She hasn't taken it yet. It happened once after she'd visited Paul and needed to be held, which is why she broke her strict no-hole embargo.
Which, yeah, that makes sense. That seems valid. Your dying best friend makes you want to have sex. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly what I think of when I go to visit my dying best friends. I must go home and fuck my husband.
Aye. Sarah talks Dee Dee into taking the test, which comes back negative, according to Dee Dee. Phew. And later, Dee Dee is speaking to a new client at the bistro, and the new client is in an abusive relationship and is scared that she's going to lose her kids.
Yes, because her husband has already stolen her kids and locked them up in his mother's house because we are suddenly living in the Grimm's fairy tales.
Dee Dee sees too much of herself in this hysterical woman and ends the meeting by saying that she has explosive diarrhea and makes her excuses. Outside, she's in the midst of a panic attack and snaps at Sean and Sally to go fuck themselves, and she's about to say the same to Kit, but he has a better bedside manner and does his best to talk her down.
Which is weird.
He tells her to put Joel in a box, metaphorically, or a body bag,
Right, he's already in a box.
and swallow it down and forget about him. He advises her not to let this cripple her. And then Dee Dee's best friend Sarah shows up later, and she confesses that she was lying about the pregnancy test and she really is knocked up with a perverse baby, and thanks to Jesus, she'll probably keep it. So the two of them talk about having a monster as your baby daddy and how she doesn't see Callum and Harry anymore. Dee Dee is so low that she goes to speak to Billy, and she tells him about getting knocked up by Joel. Billy thinks the child is innocent and that Dee Dee will be a wonderful mother, and he promises she won't be abandoned no matter what she does.
Yes, and it's nice to see Billy actually pray.
Well,
Isn't it?
Well, we catch the end of it.
Right, yes, but we actually see Billy pray.
We catch the main part of the prayer, the Amen. At home, Racist Kelly comes to see her, and as she talks about her and Frankie and never being free of Joel, Dee Dee is obviously thinking about her own little monster. But then Racist Kelly says that Joel gave her a reason to carry on. It's her and Frankie against the world. Later, in the pub, the Baileys are celebrating Ed's sold off the builder's yard. So that's good news, isn't it,
Yeah,
Helen?
and he hasn't sold it to Gary.
Who has he sold it to, though?
I don't know. We don't find that out. Somebody has bought it, and we don't know who. New character next week?
New character, maybe.
Maybe. Or
legacy character suddenly interested in builders' yards.
yes. Or the return of a
Fizz.
character.
He sold it to Fizz. He says this will clear off his debts. Michael is shocked, though, when he hears about the crowbar shenanigans from last week and Ronnie attempting to get someone to kick the fuck out of Joel. Ronnie explains that this was Mike or somebody, a guy who worked doors,
Mike.
but they weren't going to touch this with a barge pole.
Right, because they'd already been kicked.
Ronnie thinks it was never likely to happen, and all he was doing was backing up his family. Dee Dee doesn't tell him that Joel's bun is in her oven. Now, on Wednesday, Dee Dee's best friend Sarah goes to see her to get the gossip on what her family think about being knocked up by a psychopath. And she's a little shocked when she learns that Dee Dee hasn't told them. Sarah has kittens at the idea. Dee Dee says that she has Sarah in her corner, and then her face sinks when she realises how little that actually means. Later, Ed and Michael are playing cricket outside the garage when Michael hits a tennis ball at medium velocity into Dee Dee's heavy coat. Dee Dee doubles over like she's been shot, and Sarah, who's passing, insists that she needs to go to the hospital. Ed and Michael understandably think this is ridiculous. Dee Dee snaps at them to fuck off and leave her alone. In Nina's rolls later, Dee Dee makes it clear to best friend Sarah that she'll tell Ed and Michael in her own good time, not in Sarah's time, thank you very much, but then agrees to go to the medical centre.
And then maybe we'll tell James and her mum.
Afterwards, she meets up with Ed and Michael, who are both suspicious about what happened earlier. Dee Dee says that she just had a dose of the scoots earlier, and she heads off to the bogs to prove it. Ed tells Michael to keep an eye on his sister, and that's as far as we get with that storyline this week.
Yes. Fuck the storyline.
Yeah,
I may have mentioned this already. And it's just for the whole, ooh, you know, she's knocked up by an evil murderer man's baby. And it's like, so what? That evil murderer man already has 2 babies. And as Sarah points out...
Oh, God, yeah, I forgot about the first one.
And as Sarah points out, pretty much every woman on the street has had an evil man's baby at least once.
Yeah.
Sometimes twice. So this is not a storyline that adds any further interest except for, ooh, look, we got him. We made this character Christian and celibate, but then she does the bad thing, even though we wrote her this way to not do the bad thing. Ooh, and now we're going to have this whole, you know, does a Christian get an abortion thing, even though we just did this with Summer and Billy last year. Ooh. Fuck off, show.
Do you think the show is wriggling their hands as much as you were going through that?
I think they're wriggling their hands more. It's their fingers, yes. Ooh.
No, you were doing this quite a bit. Like you were shaping clay.
They probably wear less rings, though.
I would hope so. The show. Yeah, she makes a big deal about explaining her backstory. She found God when she was in...
California.
Yeah.
Because that's where
That
you go to
happens.
find God.
That happens. And then the timeline of this is a little confusing because...
Yes, well, there's that too.
If they did the deed on the night that... or the day that Paul died, then this would be like 9 or 10 weeks ago. But I think it must have been before that.
Yeah.
So she's almost 3 months pregnant at this point.
Right, and is just finding out about it now?
Right.
This grown-ass adult woman who knows how her body works is just finding this out now? Really? It's so dumb, and it's unnecessary. It's just dragging the fucking Joel shit out even further.
And it's
And nobody
wafer thin
cares
at this
anymore.
point. Yeah.
Nobody
it is wafer
cares
thin.
anymore. You know, we just gotta, you know, all we have to do is wrap up the whole which one is going down for this, Max or racist Kelly, and then we're done.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we're gonna add another evil, quote unquote, evil baby, even though neither one of Joel's other babies are evil babies.
They're very young.
Yeah, they're a little young to be evil yet. Give them time. But it's...
God, it is possible, though, that these 3 evil babies who are all born within 2-3 years of each other
Right.
could be all half siblings together
Right.
and rule the world.
They're gonna form a super villain team. It'll be the new Brotherhood of Evil.
They'll call themselves the Body Bags. Yeah, this is... I don't know that the payoff is worth
It's not.
the expense of what they're doing to Dee Dee's character here.
Right. No, it's not. It absolutely isn't. And they've already, like, trod all over this character, as well as other characters.
Yeah, you know how we said this character is celibate? Yeah, she isn't. Oh, because she was sad.
Right. Seeing her dying friend made her horny. That's how sex works, people.
She's a little bit of a freak, is our Dee Dee.
When you get really, really sad that your friend is dying, it makes you very, very horny.
For Joel.
Even though you're celibate. It's just... Yeah, this whole thing just really, really pisses me off.
Yeah, I can tell. Let's move on to a lighter storyline, shall we? Or at least the start of it. I'm going to do what I did last week and kind of break this into 2 because it feels like there is a natural break where the story takes a turn. And that story is Bully for You. On Monday, Tim, who doesn't work at the factory, wanders into the factory to say that he won't be able to meet Sally for lunch because he's off to shout at the police who have let Mason's brothers go. Betsy overhears this and is on her phone immediately. She meets Mason in the precinct later and talks about the situation with his brothers. She offers to cheer him up by getting her hole with him. But before they can do that, Matty in his honking yellow car shows up and starts beating Mason. Tim breaks it up and tells Matty that he was the one what grassed him up. Matty scarpers, while Mason is worried that Tim has now painted a bullseye on his own face. At home, Sally is worried about the ramifications of all this. Tim thinks Matty and his ilk will be bound up again sooner or later. Then on Wednesday, someone has painted grass on the front door of number 4, and Sally is hacking furious about
Right,
it.
because of the bluebird eggshell paint.
Duck egg blue.
Yeah, the duck egg blue. Are duck's eggs blue? Robin's eggs are blue. I don't think duck eggs are blue. Or like normal ducks anyway. Still, it's hilarious that, she's so mad.
Yeah, duck egg blue is the colour.
Yeah, but are duck's eggs actually blue? Is the question.
The packaging they come in is. Does that count?
Anyway.
There's a hint of blue about them.
These are things that make me just love the show. Is the fact that they can get so very specific and consistent with at least one character named Sally.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course she's madder about how expensive that paint was
Yes.
than she is scared that these two punks are threatening them in some way.
Because she can handle it. She can handle it better than Mason can handle it.
Right, yeah.
She would take none of their shit.
Right, exactly.
And if they were threatening her, she'd just call the police.
Right.
There would be no code here about wondering about, am I grassing somebody up here?
Right.
Especially after just being called a grass.
Right.
She couldn't have cared less about that.
She would also kick the shit out of them.
She would drown them in the hot tub.
She would. Even though, and again, I loved this. The whole conversation between Sally and Betsy about the ethics of owning a hot tub
Yes.
during global warming, during
Yeah.
climate change.
And Betsy thought that hot tubs were 2020, and Sally's like, well, we got ours in 2019, so we were a bit
Ahead of the curve.
ahead of the curve. And now you're behind it, says Betsy.
I
Yeah, the
know.
two of them was really, really
That
good.
was great.
So this is retribution, obviously, for Tim, Dobbin and Mason's brothers. Sally tells him to report it to the police and then orders him to get scrubbing. Tim does as he's told, but he's making an arse of getting the paint off the door, so when Sally comes back round, she sends him off to work. This obviously requires a woman's touch, as usual. At the precinct, Mason runs into Betsy, and she's keen again to hang out with him and get her hole when Mason spots his other brother get into Tim's cab. This is Logan. This is the older one, right?
This is the one that broke into Sarah's house.
Yeah. So they hightail it from the precinct to the cab office to get Eileen to get hold of Tim to warn him. But Eileen can't get a hold of him because he's out of range or something. But then Tim ends up back at the precinct as they pick up Matty. And as the two brothers threaten Tim, Mason shows up with Betsy and he takes responsibility for grassing them both up. And it's all about to kick off when PC Tinker waddles along. Hello, hello, hello.
What's all this?
And everyone involved puts their hands in their pockets, whistles, and looks up at the sky. Tinker sends the brothers Dim on their way, and as they do, they swear revenge on Mason. Back at number 4, Tim reckons he could have handled the Chuckle Brothers himself, but Mason thinks that they're worse than that, and they'll go easy on him because of the family connection. Tim offers him a roof for the night, but Mason says it'll be fine, and he exits out of Tim's back door.
But not like that.
He meets up with Betsy, who offers to get Swain involved. Mason says that he just needs to sit this out, and he's not Betsy's problem. He tells her to forget about him. And that's as far as we get with that so far.
How do you feel about Mason's brothers?
I find them as terrifying as... no, it's too early to think of a simile.
When you line up those three brothers together.
Oh, I think one of them is definitely younger than him. And one of them could be his dad.
You line up those three young men together. Do you see a family resemblance at all? At all. I guess they all have brown hair.
And they could all have different dads.
This is true. They did
And
grow.
possibly mums. The oldest one, Logan, looks like he's had the hardest life imaginable. Down the pits.
It's like they did not give a fuck with Cassie. They're like, yeah, all right, you, and I guess you. And neither one of them are the brother that is in the courtroom when Mason got put down the first time. That was a completely different other guy.
I remember nothing about that.
Who I guess was just there for the day, because I don't think he said anything.
There might be another brother. Who knows? We have an undefined number of siblings for Mason, don't we?
Right, from parents who have since fucked off and left them pretty much abandoned to do their own thing.
The brothers are about as terrifying as Treacle. And I don't understand...
Especially the younger one.
Oh, yeah, the one that looks
With
a little
his-
bit like
with his
Deck out of Ant and Deck.
With his sweet little baby face. Yes! Yes, that's exactly who he looks like. Oh my God. I was like, who does this guy look like? And I was kind of thinking maybe it was Topher Grace, but it's not. It's Deck from Ant and Deck.
And the older one looks a bit like Ant if his life has gone more off the rails.
He looks like Mickey Rourke.
An old Mickey Rourke.
Oh, well, Mickey Rourke is old now.
No, but an old.
He looks like Mickey Rourke right before he had the plastic surgery to fix his face after the motorcycle accident. It's very specific Mickey Rourke.
I feel kind of bad about giving this poor guy a hard time just for looking older than Mason, because that's what we're doing. Just because he looks considerably older than Mason. Maybe he isn't. And as someone who has always been mistaken for being older than my years, sometimes that's annoying.
I've always been mistaken as younger than my years.
Of course you have. No, I get the seniors discount at Family Fair on a Wednesday.
And you don't say no to it.
I
That's
was-
the funny thing.
The first time I was offended.
Uh-huh.
And then the second time was like, well, I get 10% off, so just
Right.
keep your mouth shut, Gav.
Of course, I was the one walking around downtown Lansing last night saying, why are all of these police officers so young? Why do they all look like they're 12?
Yep. We all become our mother sooner or later.
Well, that's not exactly what my mother would say, but I guess.
No.
No.
I don't understand Mason's assertion that his brothers are worse than you think. They
I
are
think-
worse than you think, but not that way.
I think it's because at least one of them is part of Harvey's gang. So that adds another element of danger
got you.
to him.
The one that ran away when Sarah came into the room.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The Mickey Rourke one, I believe.
Yeah. All right.
Because I can't imagine it's the Deck one. I can't imagine little Deck going to work for Harvey. I feel like Harvey would kick the shit out of little Deck.
Okay, I feel like we've mocked the storyline enough, but I really enjoy the Tim and Mason stuff. I enjoy
Yes.
the Tim, Mason, and Sally stuff.
Yes.
And I always enjoy the Tim and Sally stuff.
Yes. Yes. So if we're keeping score, the first storyline we talked about this week, 100% awful. The
Poor.
second one, half awful.
And I think I know where we're going with the third storyline this week.
Oh no.
David's double duplicity.
Well done.
Got my alliteration going
Well
there.
done with the triple D.
On Monday,
But not like that.
Max is banged up on remand, but he doesn't get the phone in his cell that Roy got. He has to go to the public phone, as he calls David to tell him that Racist Kelly had nothing to do with anything and he acted in self-defense.
Roy was in protective custody, though, because they thought that he killed a young woman. Max only killed a murderer and a pedophile.
David is made of questions, and Max quickly hangs up, something that Max will do quite a bit this week. Meanwhile, Racist Kelly is in Nina's rolls and introduces Helen, the foster carer.
It's me! It's me, the foster mom!
It's you if you smoked 40 a day.
And my hair actually went white.
Roy, why is it not Wendy Flamin' Crozier? Because this role that Helen's got is the role that Wendy Flaming Crozier got when she was looking after Barney, or whatever Abby's baby's called. Is it Barney? It's not Barney. It's not Bertie. Because
Frank.
Bertie's...
Frank.
It's not Bobby.
It's an old man name.
Oh, it's time for me to wake up. Yeah, Alfie.
Alfie. That's, yes.
I was like, in my head, it definitely begins with a B. Alfie. That's the one.
I don't think the show has Wendy Flaming Crozier money at the moment.
She went to Hull with Claudia to star in a play or something.
Did they go off together?
I think they did, just to get it right up, Ken.
Ken, yeah. Man, I miss Claudia.
Roy is thrilled to see Racist Kelly and Frankie out in the boot. All too soon, though, Racist Kelly gets a call to invite her down to the station for a chit-chat. She still holds her own as Kit grills her. He doesn't think Max was capable of killing Joel. Racist Kelly suggests that you can do lots when your life depends on it. She's not wrong. She sticks to the story that she was asleep at home on the couch at David's at the time. But if Max hadn't killed Joel, Joel would have taken his revenge on her. And later, Max calls Racist Kelly at home and they stupidly talk about the interview over the phone. Racist Kelly wants to know how Max is doing, but Max immediately claims that he needs to nip off for a shite and he hangs up on her. Now, I was thinking about this. And this self-defense claim. And I don't know that it holds water. And here's why.
Because they drove out to where...
They actively tracked him down.
Yeah, they actively tracked him down instead of staying home warm in their beds.
They saw where he was. They
Yeah.
saw he was clearly nowhere near them because he was out at the viaduct.
Right.
So they tracked him down. Max...
Confronted him.
To do what? To tell him to stay away as he was doing? Because he was at the viaduct. He was about to flee and fake his own death.
Well, yeah, I think it was, you can't flee and fake your own death. You need to go to the police. But if you were going to do that, Max, maybe the thing you should have done is go to the fucking police.
Well, Racist Kelly did try and phone Swain, but Swain's not the only police officer.
Yeah, but she's the only one she trusts.
999 is the thing that they should have done.
Yes, they
But
should have
instead-
shouted, no, 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 in German.
Right. Ugh. That was pretty low, Helen.
Apparently, when 999 was introduced, there was laughter in the House of Commons because it sounded like a German shouting no 3 times. Allegedly. This may be...
That's what passes for humour in the House of Commons, is it? And in this room.
It's better than the humor in the House of Representatives.
Oh, aye. Is Gary Busey there yet? Anyway. He's working for the Department of Agriculture now. No, I think a decent case could be made for premeditation here.
Yeah, although, they didn't premeditatively pick out a rock. There is premeditation in going to confront this person who you are supposedly terrified of.
Yeah, how can you...
I'm
how
so
can you
terrified
claim-
of this guy. I'm going to go after him.
Exactly. It makes all the difference in the world that they were the ones who actively confronted him.
Yeah. Granted, they weren't the only ones who actively confronted him that night.
No, there was a line of people.
There was a line of people, and he should have been weakened from his head wound, although apparently he wasn't. And it's funny that Kit doesn't bring this up at all in any of the questioning. He's like, Joel was a unit. There's no way that Max could take down a big guy like Joel. And it's like, really? Was Joel a big guy? Because I don't remember Joel being a big guy.
No.
Or being into fitness or, having big muscles anywhere in his body. He's taller than Max. I will give you that.
I would think he was stronger than Max as
But
well.
Max is younger
He's got that on his side.
and he doesn't have a head wound.
True. So, meanwhile, David hears from Lily that Shona's been crying, and he tentatively checks to see if she's okay, and she tells him that Clayton has improved.
Which is why she's crying?
David does a bad job of pretending to give a fuck, and she understands why he feels this way. He insists he's just worried about the impact Clayton has on her and the family, which I'm not sure I believe. They agree that they will get through this. But later, Shona discovers an email from the prison in her junk mail and becomes frantic when she thinks that she could have been with Clayton sooner. David acts surprised and doesn't think it would have made much of a difference anyway. What kind of fucking husband are you, she snaps. David talks to Nick about this, but Nick has already made his feelings well known. He suggests that he and Shona should never have worked, but they do, and he's about to lie his way into a divorce. So, David takes all this advice on board and decides to gaslight the fuck out of Shona, telling her that she's been behaving irrationally lately thanks to her brain injury that she picked up after getting shot in the stomach, and he gets her to believe that she was the one deleting the emails.
Yeah, which is fucked up. Fucked up.
Nick is appalled when David explains this to him and suggests that his scheme will be fucked when Clayton tells Shona that David visited her, and David says that he'll claim that this was a hallucination.
Clayton's pronouns are he, him.
Well, do we know that for sure?
Yes. He's in a man's prison.
On Wednesday, David is heading off to see Max and has arranged a hotshot lawyer to work his case. Shona is a bit worried that Max is actually telling the truth, but David cannot be dissuaded from thinking that racist Kelly is behind all this. Meanwhile, Shona's off to sit at Clayton's bedside and David chooses to ignore this. But it turns out Max refuses to see David when he goes back to the street. He sees racist Kelly and bluntly accuses her of setting up Max, pointing out that Shona's Clayton tried to top himself in there and wonders if that's what she wants for Max. Kit appears and breaks this up. And then David gets a message from Shona. Clayton has woken up. And then somehow, Shona bumps into racist Kelly at the tram stop as she's looking for David, and racist Kelly tells her about Max refusing to see David and asks her about Clayton, and Shona confirms it, but says Clayton is refusing to speak to her too.
Right, because let's remember, David told Clayton that Shona wanted nothing to do with him and never wanted to see him again.
And I think he might have said that he's dead to her.
Something like that.
At the prison, Max is meeting with his lawyer, and based on his version of events, she reckons that they have 2 chances of making self-defense stick, and one of those chances is fuck all. Shona goes to see racist Kelly and accuses her of covering for something for Max, and eventually she wears racist Kelly down. It wasn't Max what killed Joel, it were me what done it, says racist Kelly, and she produces Max's letter as proof that she was only doing what Max told her to do, and it's questionable why she would keep a hold of this vital piece of evidence in the sideboard. She insists it was self-defence, and I think we've discussed that it probably isn't, and the lawyer, it seems to agree. Max calls racist Kelly and speaks with Shona, claims that he knows what he's doing and what he has to do. He asks her to respect his wishes. Later, racist Kelly tries dreaming up new lies. Maybe she would admit that she was there and saw everything and saw that it was self-defence, and most of that is true. Shona points out that then they'd both be lying, and she needs to tell David this, and she fucks off with a letter. Racist Kelly says she'll head to the cop shop to try out her new story as soon as Helen gets home to look after Frankie. David thinks the letter proves that Max didn't do it. What?
You said my name and I was like, oh, what?
Yeah,
what am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah, paying attention is what you're supposed to be doing.
I have to look after Frankie? Who signed me up for this?
Did you like the line? I think it was Wendy that dropped as a note at this moment where racist Kelly says to Frankie, "I'll feed you in a minute."
Uh-huh.
Good stuff.
Not out of those, you're not.
Yeah, seriously.
I was looking at racist Kelly today or last night while I was watching this and saying, yeah, you didn't have a baby a few months ago.
Showing her midriff off.
There's no fucking way you had a baby.
Although the baby was
ago.
tiny.
Well, yes, but still.
Oh, sure.
She should not be in a midriff yet. And I'm not midriff shaming. It's just that this is an unrealistic idea of what your body is like right after you have a baby.
Racist Kelly and Shona were both shown off the midriff in the same scenes.
Yes.
Very chilly torsos on Coronation Street this week. So David thinks the letter proves that Max didn't do it. Shona wants to give them a chance. Fuck that, says David, and he goes off with a letter straight to the pigs. And next we see Kit arrives to arrest racist Kelly for Moida. In the interview room, she admits to lying before, agrees that she was on the bridge, but she didn't do anything. But Kit has the letter, and that's racist Kelly well and truly fucked now.
Yes.
She admits to killing Joel, but sticks to the self-defense story, and it was Max's idea to keep her out of it, and he should be let go. But Kit says he won't be letting anyone go, and reckons that they're both in deep shit.
Because perverting the course of justice is also a crime.
Yeah. Racist Kelly doesn't seem to care.
Both Max and Racist Kelly seem shocked by the concept.
Yeah, lying to the police. You're not really supposed to do that. She seems to only care about seeing Frankie, and Kit promises nothing. So, on Friday, Max is home and a bit depressed at Racist Kelly getting charged instead. It seems he doesn't know about David handing in the letter. Shona wants to tell the truth, but David thinks this is a terrible idea. No good ever comes from telling the truth, says David. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Racist Kelly calls Roy and asks him to keep an eye on Max for her, which is weird considering that Shona was right there. Helen comes over to explain what's happening with Frankie.
Yes, I do.
And Racist Kelly is applying for permission to have him with her. And then Kit turns up and drags Max off for more questioning. In the interview room, he wants to know why he lied, and he explains exactly what happened, how she saved his life. Kit doesn't care and will be charging him with perverting the course of justice. Max isn't done though, and blames the fucking pigs for letting her down time and again with Joel, and how she handed herself in, so that should count for something. But Kit takes pleasure in telling him that she didn't hand herself in, and explains about the letter. So Max is heckin' furious when he gets home. It was his choice to throw his life away for Racist Kelly, he says. She had a chance for a fresh start with Frankie, and David and Shona have fucked it up. Am I alone in finding this weird?
No.
That his obsession
with her,
particularly with Frankie, I think, is weird. That he wants to be Frankie's dad, and this seems to be the main driver for him in all of this.
I think an awful lot of it has to do with the fact that his mum was horribly murdered.
Yes, I would agree. I still think it's weird though.
And that Shona was shot in the stomach and got brain damage. So it's his opportunity to protect a maternal figure when he was not able to protect his other two maternal figures. Although obviously he does not see Racist Kelly as a maternal figure for himself. But he is making a hard case for Mother Mary and baby Jesus here.
Yeah. He's certainly the white knight that Racist Kelly didn't ask for.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also that aspect to it.
He storms off to Nina's rolls, and Roy is aware of the situation, and he thinks Max's intentions were noble, but the justice system should be allowed to run its course without lies, and thinks that Racist Kelly is coping quite well because he spoke to her. And at that, Racist Kelly calls back, and Max speaks to her. She tells him not to blame David and Shona for looking out for him, and she says that she should have confessed from the start. She asks Max to take care of Frankie if she doesn't get to. So Max goes home and tells David that Frankie will be moving in with them. David's furious about this. Shona doesn't seem to think it's the end of the world, and that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes. I think we've said everything we need to say about this.
I don't know that we've said enough about David's tactics here with his wife.
Yeah. This is very shitty of David.
Supremely low. A supremely low maneuver.
Yes.
And how many things come from people not telling the truth at the first time of asking?
Right. And then gaslighting their wives. Because this is something that happens quite a bit on the show.
I think it's particularly low because it preys on Shona's mental illness or...
Right. Her disability.
There's maybe a better word.
Yeah, because... and this isn't the first time he's done this. This isn't the first time that he's tried to get out of something with her by blaming her short-term memory. Mm. And it sucks because I love David so much when he's a comedic character on the show or when he is a loving father. But
he's got a nasty side.
He's got this really nasty streak with adult women. with his wife and with his gran specifically, and with his mother. Because let's not forget, David is 9/10 a shit to Gale at every opportunity.
Well, without a doubt.
And I guess it's just a part of his personality, and a lot of his humor is quite snarky as well. And I feel kind of conflicted because I love his snarky humor, but I don't like him being abusive to the women he supposedly loves.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it is from a place of protection, or is it entirely self-motivated?
I think it's far more self-motivated than he cares to admit.
I absolutely agree.
I think more of it is him not seeing this as Shona, his wife that he loves very much, his son. It is my other wife who I loved very much is murderer.
Yeah, it's never Shona's son. It's always Kylie's killer.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he just cannot get over that. And there's a part of me that understands that, finds that understandable, and I cannot fathom what it would be like to be in that situation, to love the parent of the man that killed your wife.
I would suggest it's impossible.
Yeah.
Because of this.
Yeah.
Because
Why-
you're never going to get over this.
No.
And
No.
it's always going to come in the way because Shona's maternal feelings towards Clayton are unextinguishable.
Correct. Yeah.
And can correctly so.
Right.
And David's hatred for Clayton is also unextinguishable.
Right.
And maybe you could argue that maybe he's not making his peace with it, but maybe he shouldn't be quite as angry about it as he always is.
Right, because at least Shona acknowledges Clayton is a bad man. He deserves to be in prison.
Mm-hmm.
He did a very bad thing. He was wrong, and he's where he belongs, which is something that an awful lot of other parents on this show could never bring themselves to do. Fizz, Tyrone,
Sure.
Joel's parents,
Right.
ITV Stefan. But David can't, so at least she is willing to kind of meet him halfway.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my son is a horrible, horrible person who did very bad things, but I still love him. David can't come back and meet her halfway with, yes, this man did a very horrible thing to me and someone I love by taking that person away from me, but he is also your son. So I can understand why you love him. He can't bridge that gap.
No, David's reaction to this is not this again.
Right. Yeah.
And Nick's right.
Yeah.
The
For
two
once.
of them shouldn't work.
Yeah.
And the most part they do.
Right.
But there comes a point where the rubber really hits the road in this, and where your loyalties lie, and David's loyalties are towards his anger more than his wife, and
Yeah. And his love for her.
maybe they should have just said at the start, this isn't going to work because of things like this.
Yeah.
Long term, it's just going to cause more pain.
Right. That's when they should have just looked at each other and said, you know what? I think we're characters in a soap opera.
It's like we're characters in a soap opera.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Nick being right? And being the more moral of the two, even though he's sneaking around with his ex-partner's sister.
It's almost as though the writers of these threads didn't realise that these stories would converge at certain points, because Nick continually has to say, I know I sound like a hypocrite here,
Right.
but tell the truth,
Yeah.
even though I'm choosing not to.
Right. Yet. I will tell the truth eventually. Or get caught. Which is most
More
likely. Yeah.
Shona will find out.
Yeah.
Now let's take Shona's name out there and put Leanne in its place. Yeah. All right, we'll move on then to Vallies of the Ken doll. Vallies as in Valium.
Yeah. And not just And also Valley of the Dolls.
Yes.
Yes.
On Monday, Ken's back.
With a very, very faint tan. You can kind of tell that he's been in a place
The tan budget went on Cassie, let's face it.
where he can say, I feel great. It's all the vitamin D.
Yeah. Adam and Steve are immediately on his back about Cassie, and he confirms that he intends to fire her now that he's back because he doesn't need her as a carer anymore and can't afford her. So wait a minute, how much did this
How much
vacation
did
cost? I know it was like 50 grand. I know they went first class, but you didn't spend no 50 grand on this. No chance.
No chance.
Adam and Steve approve, though. So Ken meets Cassie in the bistro, thanks her for the memories that they made in Porto.
Right, yeah. And she's like, you're either going to give me a promotion or fire me. And Ken gives her a look.
He explains
Whoa.
that he's well and can't afford her, in that order. No harm done, says Cassie, but when Ken nips off for a shite, she looks as though every harm was done. And later, Cassie hands her CV in to Roy. More holes than Oak Hill, says Adam. And I'm like, what on earth does that mean? She's had more holes than Oak Hill?
Well,
or
her-
she's got more holes than Oak Hill?
her-
I know.
her
I
resume.
know. But for the joke to work, it's important that I don't know that.
Does Oak Hill have a lot of holes?
Apparently it's got a golf course, is what I'm assuming.
Do private schools in the United Kingdom typically have their own golf courses?
I think Oak Hill here is describing the area. But your question, Helen, reminds me that I really should be hitting this button.
Yeah.
Oak Hill.
Oak Hill. Oak Hill.
Oak Hill.
Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill. Oak Hill.
That is a lot of holes.
It sure is.
Mostly Sally's.
Oh. Ken offers to help her spruce up her resume at home, and by that he means spruce up her resume. When she's there, though, she crushes up some of Ken's warfarin tablets into his tea, and then gives him his actual warfarin tablet with the tea. Holy shit, she's poisoning Ken.
Yes! She's poisoning Ken so that she can keep Ken.
My gran was on warfarin.
Uh-huh.
So, and my dad was on warfarin as well, actually. And so I knew it was a blood thinner. And I knew that the kind of side effect of it is that if you get cut, it's a serious business because
Yeah.
your blood doesn't clot.
Right.
Because that's the whole point.
Right.
That your blood doesn't clot.
Yeah.
And any time that my gran just brushed her hand against something, she'd
She
get a
bruised,
bruise.
yeah.
So it's serious stuff.
Yeah.
And it's actually, or it was used in rat poison. It kills rats.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny because, I knew this was coming because of the spoilers that get written up in the paper while I'm doing Corrie News, while I'm researching Corrie News. And this is a horrible thing Cassie is doing. I am not saying that it's not.
Seriously.
But all of the spoilers made it seem like this was a horrible plot that she was going to do all along to kill Ken. When I don't think her intention is to kill Ken.
What is she going to get out of killing him?
Right. Yeah. Unless she's unwittingly had him write her into his will or something. I don't know. But granted, these are just the headlines because I never read them.
Sure.
So they may have explained exactly why, but it's just like evil, horrible Cassie, sick plot against Ken.
Just as we were starting to like Cassie again.
Right. And this isn't really a sick plot against Ken. It's a sick plot to keep Ken, which I guess is better, but not by much.
No.
Because she can also potentially lose Ken by trying to keep Ken. It's like Munchausen syndrome, isn't
It's
it?
very much like that scene from The Sixth Sense
Yes.
where the mother's keeping the daughter sick.
By feeding her Drano.
Yes.
Drano, warfarin, same thing.
Yep. Cleans your pipes out.
One way or the other.
On Wednesday at number 1, Ken is feeling under the weather, understandably, and calls on Cassie to take her job back, the one that he fired her from yesterday.
Right. Forgetting the fact that part of this was a financial decision.
She agrees and sticks a kettle on, being sure to give him another warfarin tablet. Ken's off for a nap when Cassie is making up his pillboxes when Tracy comes in with Steve and Adam. It seems that Adam's been on the phone to Tracy to get her to come home. Steve tries to throw Cassie out and she says that now that he's got her whole off of her, he's kicking her to the curb. Tracy and Adam throw up in their mouths a little bit.
Yes.
Ken comes down the stairs and tells his family to suck his balls. Cassie's working there is his decision. And then he takes a wee turn and seems out of sorts. Ken goes off for another nap while Tracy insinuates that Steve's not the only occupant of number 1 that Cassie got her whole off of. But when Tracy goes to call the doctor, Cassie tries to downplay it, suggesting that it's just a bug that Ken's got. Tracy's had enough of this and chucks her out despite Ken's wishes. Privately, Tracy suggests to Steve that she and Tommy O are moving back to Weatherfield, and then Toya oddly shows up for Amy's bistro keys, and as Tracy looks for them, she sends Ken's pillbox a scattering. Later, Steve...
Why does Toya need Amy's bistro keys?
Who knows?
Has Amy quit her job again?
Who knows? Like, why is she there?
Why is Toya there? Toya is there for plot.
Yes.
It's kind of like Sarah showing up randomly at Dee Dee's.
It could have been Kirk. Kirk has shown up at number 1 for a yo-yo.
No, because Kirk is not a busybody. It had to be a busybody.
Is Toya a busybody?
Toya is a busybody.
Later, Steve and Adam get home to find Ken struggling with a nosebleed that won't stop. And he says that he feels out of his tits, so they rush him off to the hospital. They run some tests on Ken and discover excess warfarin in his system. Ken says that it's Cassie who normally takes care of his pills, and this wraps it up for Steve and Adam. Ken insists that he's fine, but Adam reckons that he could have died, and he could have.
Yes, and they're keeping him overnight, so you know it's serious.
Tracy doesn't think Cassie is fit to be a carer, so later in the pub, she finds Cassie and tells her that Ken nearly died thanks to her fucking up his medication.
And this actually does make Cassie shit her pants a little bit.
Yeah, she realises that she's gone too far, I think.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand enough about the pill that she's given him too much of.
Right.
On Friday, Cassie runs into Steve and Enid's roles to apologise for the Ken thing. She doesn't know how it could have happened, but Steve isn't buying it and makes it clear that she's fired, again. A nosy Toya tells Steve what happened when she popped round for Amy's keys. Remember? Remember that, Helen?
Right. She's like, oh, Steve, I can't help myself from just letting you know this one thing that happened, that, you know, that you might be barking up the wrong tree, because I guess I hate Tracy more than I hate Cassie.
Yeah, I don't think Toya's really got an opinion on Cassie, has she?
No.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't Cassie's fault, except it was. Mm-hmm. On a brighter note, it seems Ken will be getting home today. And back home, Ken and Steve get stuck into Tracy for spilling the meds. But she...
Right, and a little too stuck into Tracy, I would say. Both of them are like, how dare you accidentally knock over my pills and then pick them up and don't put them back in the right order, even though you've never seen these pills before in your life. How dare you?
Ken is screaming at her. And I'm sitting watching this going,
what?
Settle down, old Jin. You're going to give yourself a coronary here.
Right, yeah, that's her daughter you're speaking to, sir.
She is appalled and reckons that she put everything back in the right place, but a furious Ken throws her out.
Yeah, what?
And instead, he invites Cassie back to apologise. And after firing her, reinstating her, and firing her after accusing her of trying to kill him, he now wants her to come back for more money. Remember, money was an issue.
Right.
She accepts. Cassie also accepts Steve's apology. Ken explains that if he hadn't been prescribed warfarin, it might have been more difficult for the hospital to diagnose the problem. Cassie takes this as advice.
And sucks a thoughtful tooth.
And Voggles things that make you drowsy. And it seems that she's continuing to drug him, but with something different, as she encourages him
that he's not prescribed to. And how did she get it?
To finish off his drink and head off to bed at 5:30 in the afternoon.
Which, you know, the man's in his 90s. That's not unfeasible.
I don't know, the older that my granddad got, the less he slept.
He goes to bed earlier, but he gets up earlier as well. Yeah?
Oh, my granddad went to bed at like 2 in the morning and got up at 6.
Trying to enjoy every second.
Yeah, precious little to enjoy at that point. Yeah, I'm not liking this
No.
at all. And this goes back to our commentary from in the feedback section, where a lot of these storylines are taking dips here, like Cassie, who we were starting to like.
Right, yeah, who seemed to be on a redemption arc, suddenly remembers that she has no morals.
Mm-hmm. And she will do
now that she's gotten this luxury vacation.
And she will do anything to keep her claws in on this.
Also, how long was this vacation?
It was 2 weeks.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did we not see them for 2 weeks?
Mm.
It seems shorter than that.
Oh, it was maybe a week. It was maybe just a week.
No wonder Ken barely got a suntan.
She did seem to really care for Ken, though.
No, but I don't think that has changed.
Well,
I think she genuinely cares for him and genuinely loves her job and does not want to lose it. And so that's why she's drugging him. It is...
She's nearly killing him.
Right, yeah. It is a misplaced act of love. Again, Munchausen syndrome.
Mm.
So...
Or is this Munchausen by proxy?
What's the difference?
I think Munchausen is when you yourself... By proxy is for somebody else, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. It's Munchausen's by proxy. Because we are medical experts up in here.
Yes, Dr. Broom.
I agree, Dr. Broom.
Huzzah.
Huzzah, indeed.
50 milligram Valium, start.
Please.
Oh, you loved the Vallies, remember? Oh.
I like morphine more than Valium, but yeah. When
stuff.
I'm in a hospital and in extreme pain, I am going to push. Yeah, I'd much rather have either one of them than like stupid opiates and stuff. Anyway, yeah, it's this weird thing where if she didn't give a fuck about this guy, she wouldn't be poisoning him. You know,
Yeah.
if she didn't care about the job, she'd just go get another job. Because she didn't try to poison Kev and Abby and Tyrone when she lost that job.
She did try and split them up.
That's true. But, yeah, and it's actually kind of surprising that she didn't try to sneak booze into Abby's drinks all the time.
I know.
So, yeah, it's a weird kind of story because it's like she probably does not perceive what she's doing as evil or bad.
I think she understands that it's wrong.
Well, I would hope so.
But yeah,
she's
maybe not
doing it
evil.
from a place of love.
It is evil, though.
Yes, it is. He's in his 90s, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, this is a very delicate chemical balance here.
Yes.
You can't go fucking around with that.
No.
All right, our penultimate storyline tonight is Remembering Oliver, the real one. On Friday, Leanne is down in the dumps in Nina's Rolls ahead of Oliver's death anniversary. Sean suggests that she plans a celebration of life. Tracy comes in to shout at her about the Institute stuff, calling her as bad as Rowan. It sounds like Rowan's trial is coming up.
Dum dum dum.
Later, Leanne nearly walks in on Nick and Toya smooching, and Leanne pitches the idea of a wee memorial for Oliver.
And Nick's hand, very, very high up Toya's thigh, it must be said. High up enough for her to have to pull her skirt down when she gets off that desk.
And this is all because Leanne suggested that they get their hole in the office. Leanne can't believe that it's been 4 years. Wee Oliver would have been 8. And later, Toya tells Nick that she hates sneaking around like this, especially with how upset Leanne is, and seems to be a proponent for telling Leanne the truth. But Nick wants to wait until after the memorial. Yes, that'll be much better.
Yes.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
But maybe not like directly after
Yeah.
the memorial. Maybe wait a few days.
Nick and Toya are doing what everyone does when they're having a sneaky affair.
Right.
Is they do it in places where they could easily be caught.
Correct.
At work.
Yes. The door is locked, though. He has to quickly unlock it before Leanne opens it.
They should still maybe not be doing this at work.
They're just really, really lucky that Leanne has a very loud voice.
Right. All right, and that's just a little filler for next week, I guess.
Yes.
So, our final storyline tonight is Dining at the Y.
You are so mature.
On Wednesday, outside Nina's Rolls, it's good news for Swain.
It's Swain.
She's getting reinstated in at the cops next week.
Huzzah!
But it's also bad news because she's forgotten it's Becky's birthday, and Betsy ends up taking flowers to her grave on her own after making her mum feel awful about this.
Betsy, the child who threw all of Becky's clothes in the dumpster.
Oh yeah, let's remember that.
Let's not ever forget. Every time Betsy is overly sanctimonious towards Swain about Becky.
Oh, pig's tits, says Swain, and then realises that nobody said pig's tits in ages. Swain tries to meet up with Betsy later at the Rovers, but when Betsy doesn't answer, she decides to get drunk out of her tits on her own. She drunkenly tries to play darts with Ryan walking in front of her. She sings Crazy by Gnarls Barkley, and so Ryan has had enough and calls Carla to come take care of her.
She's very, very close to actually flirting with Ryan
She
during all of this.
pats him a little bit, doesn't she? She
Yeah.
pats him.
And she's like, we should do a duet. Sing with me, Ryan. Sing. The crazy song that Helen didn't think was the crazy song that Swain would sing. But that's okay.
Oh, you think it would be more Patsy Cline?
And initially I thought it was Patsy Cline. Until she started singing more of the words from the Gnarls Barkley song badly.
She did the ha ha ha, bless your soul bit.
She did.
I wish they wouldn't have characters be drunk. Because
they're terrible at it.
I
And
don't
her
know-
being drunk with Ryan just reminds me of when we were introduced to Ryan and how terribly, terribly he acted drunk.
I
in
don't
that
know
scene.
why they never seem to get the eyes right. Because when you're drunk in your eyes, you're kind of struggling to keep your eyes open a little bit, and you're
Correct.
struggling to keep focusing. You're blinking an awful lot. Maybe if you did that, it just looks false, or just draws attention to the fact that you're not really drunk. I thought she did the voice better.
Yeah. But CeeLo Green should be very, very offended.
Yes. He calls Carla to come take care of her, and so Carla shows up and eventually gets Swain back to her place to sober up. But as Carla's making some refreshing tea, Swain, who was drunkenly maudlin about Becky, falls asleep on Carla's couch.
Yes.
On Friday, Swain wakes up with no memory of how she got to Carla's, and she's rather sheepish about it.
And not worried at all about how her daughter fared overnight without her mother.
No.
On the night of Becky's birthday, where her daughter is probably quite upset and sad and may do dumb things with people like Mason.
Carla teases her about her behaviour in the sing-along. That's enough to send Swain puking up, which Carla chooses to find endearing. Carla nips out...
And chooses to send her not to the general bathroom of the apartment, but into Carla's ensuite in her bedroom. But the room that she runs into, that is supposedly Carla's bedroom with the ensuite, is across from the door that we later infer is Carla's bedroom, which makes me worried that they got their hole in Ryan's room.
Oh, well.
Or is it Bobby's room? Who knows?
Let's, through all of this, feel sorry for Bobby.
Yeah,
So,
where were Ryan and Bobby while all of this was happening?
quivering wrecks with her hands over their ears, I think, is what was happening. Carla nips out for refreshments while Swain has a shower and ends up in Carla's dressing gown. Again, sheepishly, Carla heads off to work while Swain continues to sober up on the sofa.
Which is weird because you'd think that Carla's dressing gown would be dragging on the floor a wee bit with Swain in it.
Later, Ryan, who doesn't work at the factory, turns up at the factory. He copped off last night himself and got home to find Swain in his living room. He reckons
In Carla's dressing gown.
He reckons that Carla was dining at the Y last night, but Carla explains that Swain got gassed and just needed a place to kip. But when pressed, Carla admits that she has confusing feelings about Swain, and Ryan says, look, it can feel like that no matter who you fancy. And that's totally right. That little feeling that you get, I imagine that's the same, that's a universal feeling, right? It doesn't matter if it's
Toward a
same
man or
sex
a
or
woman,
whatever, right?
or a rosé.
Right. He suggests that she sees where it goes. So, Carla goes home, finds Swain getting dressed, tells her not to, and the pair end up smooching for reals. For reals.
A swim?
Afterwards, Carla goes to get a drink, wonders aloud what she's doing, but Swain's not done and drags her back to the bedroom for round 2.
Well, they're both fully dressed and wearing pants. What exactly are they doing in there?
You wanted to see some floof?
No, but if they're doing what they're insinuating they're doing, they wouldn't get fully dressed to go to the kitchen.
Well,
Especially if they think that they're going to be continuing.
at 8:20 at night on ITV, they do.
But the dressing gown is right there, Carla. Just put it back on.
Once they're done, Carla is being quizzed by Swain on her lesbian tendencies. She admits to snogging a girlfriend or two to get the boys jealous,
Or bisexual tendencies, let's say, for Carla's sake.
but this was her first. It seems like there are no regrets on either side. Meanwhile, Betsy finds Mason at the precinct. He's survived the night, but his brothers are still hunting him down. Betsy's still keen on getting her hole from him, but he wants to find a job, a place to live, and maybe have a shower first. His brothers see this interaction from the veranda of the flats at the precinct. And
Which they don't live in.
later, in the alleyway of doom, the brothers jump Betsy and tell her to remind Mason where his loyalties lie, or else, which seems a strange thing to threaten somebody with. You better get him to like us again, or we'll kill you.
Yeah, it's
What?
weird.
This doesn't make sense.
It's weird. It's weird.
And all Betsy needs to say here is, all right, I'll do that.
Yeah. Fuck off.
And then they'll let her
Not do
go.
it. Yeah.
This is terrifying stuff. And then she says that her mum's going to be wondering where she is, so they get her to text her to let her know that she's going to be late. It's like, you people are so stupid. This is just nonsense. None of this is making any sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And do they not understand that her mum's a cop?
Yeah, this doesn't seem to be putting them off either. Again, these are the brothers Dim. These aren't any super criminals here or anyone that should be threatened by them or overly concerned about them, because they're so stupid it's amazing that they can put one foot in front of the other.
They're just going to let anybody into Harvey's gang these days.
Seriously. And it's not Harvey's gang. It's Sharon's.
Nobody seems to remember that, though, except for us and Wendy.
So they tell her to text Swain to let her know that she'll be late, but Swain is busy shagging Carla. Luckily, Betsy uses code, saying that she's going to the cinema with her dad to alert Swain that something's not right. Back in the alleyway of doom, Ryan comes to the rescue because they're still in the alleyway of doom. They don't go
Right.
anywhere.
Yeah.
This is awful.
Yes.
Ryan comes to the rescue and sends the two of them packing. They call him Deadpool, which is maybe at least clever.
Yes. Yes. And it's kind of shocking that this hasn't happened before. That this is the first time someone has called Ryan Deadpool when his face is
Almost entirely healed now.
right. Yeah. And it's got this weird strip where there's no scar at all between this strip
Yeah,
and this strip.
It always looks like there's a Band-Aid or something.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the skin graft. So I kind of understand that. But then above that, there's like a strip here where it's just clear skin. And above that is more scarring. And it's like, did they just not have time to put that one strip of scar tissue onto his face?
They get the easy bit right. They always remember to put the little bandage on his arm.
Right. Which why is his hand still bandaged?
Which I think you'd be wanting to get some air in on that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Especially after months and months and like over a year.
So Ryan thinks that he recognises the one that looks like Deck.
Yes.
Swain catches up with Betsy, who doesn't grass the brothers up, but Ryan says that he recognises one of them from the STC in the talk that he did, and he thinks Daniel might be able to help. Betsy quickly twigs that Swain is wearing Carla's top and is hacking furious that her mum was getting her hole rather than coming to the rescue herself, and maybe even getting her hole on the anniversary of Becky's birth.
Right, yes.
And she throws a drink over Swain.
And also somehow can fit perfectly into Carla's clothes, even though Carla's like a foot taller than she is.
How could you do this on my mum's birthday? Carla thinks that Swain gets away with murder with how she talks to her, and this puts Swain's...
Betsy gets away with murder for the way she talks to Swain.
And this puts Swain's nose out of joint. She suggests that they keep their distance from each other, which Carla finds ironic. She puts her life on the line at work, but when it comes to her love life, she's a bit of a coward. This does not help.
It does not.
Becky might be dead, but Swain is still here, she says. But Swain is in no mood to discuss this further and storms out.
Yeah, you're still alive, so live a little. And, you know, don't let your kid get away with total bullshit.
Mason meets up with Betsy in Nina's Rolls. It was patisserie day at college, and he leaves a wee cake with Roy to try.
That was adorable. That was so fucking adorable, because at first Roy's like, oi, you're not supposed to bring food in here. And then Mason's like, I'm sorry, sir, I made this. Could you please try it, because you're such an expert in this field? And that just softens Roy right up. Right up. And it's so cute.
That is.
It's so cute. This is what I live for this show.
This is from Mason, though.
This and Sally. Well, it's Mason and Roy. It's Roy once again softening to a terrible young person who is slowly getting better.
I think he's just better now.
Yeah.
That's just it. Mason worries that his brothers were responsible for the drama earlier, but she insists not. In the pub, a sad Carla tells Ryan that her relationship might be over before it really started, twice. She thinks it might be a blessing in disguise, though. Swain's baggage is too much to deal with.
And maybe she does love the dick more.
Later, in the community garden...
Maybe she is strictly dickly.
It seems that Mason's brothers have Betsy's phone number, and they text her.
How did they get her phone number?
That if she doesn't get Mason to get back on side with them, she's dead. Which is like just so awfully stupid.
We're sad because our brother doesn't like us anymore.
Carla appears and explains how selfish Betsy has been, and no one is trying to replace Becky. It seems Betsy is quite happy for Swain to be miserable for the rest of her life.
Yes, and again, Betsy's the one who threw Becky's clothes in the kip.
She wants her mum to turn her world into a memorial for Becky, it seems. Carla gets one life, and it's short, she says, and there's nothing wrong with trying to find some joy in it. It isn't the end of the world for Swain to do the same, or Betsy for that matter, and she tells Betsy to go home. But instead, she meets up with the brothers Dim and tells them that if they leave her and Mason alone, she can let them into the factory to steal all the expensive gear while everyone is away on a team building day tomorrow that no one's mentioned yet.
Like the laptops.
The brothers are very interested in this proposal, and this is how we end this week's episodes.
How new and expensive do you think the laptops in that factory are?
They're Microsoft Surfaces, I think, aren't they? Which are quite expensive.
Are they?
Yeah, not Mac expensive, but
No.
fairly expensive for a laptop.
I would think the sewing machines are probably far more expensive than the laptops in that building.
I would probably agree with you. So Betsy is now another character that takes a bit of a dip after us kind of liking her. Well, I kind of liked her.
And again, this keeps happening where she and her mother are slowly starting to get to know one another again and get to a place where they can relate to one another. And then all of a sudden it just comes crashing down because Swain doesn't know why Betsy wants to buy flowers. And the way Betsy says, oh, I'm going over to the flower shop to buy flowers, but you're paying for them. The way she says that is just even kind of horrible. Yeah. I would tell my child to fuck off if they said something like that to me, no matter whether or not you were dead.
Right.
When they do it. But
wait a minute, why do I have to be dead here?
Because you're the Becky in this situation.
Oh, okay. Who's Betsy's mum? Who's Betsy's birth mum?
I don't know. Because sometimes it thinks that sometimes I feel like it's Swain, because Swain says mine and Becky's daughter, and I'm your mum, But then Betsy was calling. Sometimes Betsy calls Becky. And so that makes you think that Swain is her mom. But then, especially on Friday, she keeps going off on calling Becky her mom. And so I'm very confused. And maybe the show doesn't understand how this works. She looks like Swain.
She does look like Swain, and we've thought this from the start. So I would always assume that she came from Swain's uterus.
But we don't know what Becky looked like. We've never seen a picture of Becky, not once.
Was Swain and Becky together when Swain had Betsy, or did Swain have Betsy and then Becky kind of came along in a kind of stepmom type thing? I don't think that's clear either.
No.
I think either of these options is possible.
And again, it's very, very weird that so much is invested in a character we've never met and never seen.
And never will meet.
Right. And also never seen. It's weird that we haven't seen a picture of Becky on Swain's desk or on Betsy's phone or anything. It's weird that hasn't happened, that neither one of them have been fondly scrolling through their pictures. You would think Becky's birthday would be the day that we would see one of the two of them scrolling through their pictures and sadly, gazing at a picture of the three of them together.
It'd be a good opportunity for that, certainly.
That would have been much more believable for Swain to be doing in the Rovers than trying to throw darts.
Or sing Gnarls Barkley.
I feel like the singing is more possible than for the first time picking up some darts.
And then Ryan walking in front of the area that she's
Dartboard.
going to be throwing darts at.
She's very close to the dartboard when she's throwing them. She's like...
It's not a regulation distance, that's for sure.
No, she's within touching distance of the dartboard.
Well...
Almost.
I guess my issue with Swain's sudden desire to put Betsy as number one in her life is that at no point has she ever done that.
No.
Remember, she's taken time off work so she and Betsy can reconnect and has spent no time with her
and go
whatsoever.
go on a wee trip together. And that didn't happen.
None of this has happened. All that's happened during Swain's time off is she's got pished. And that, I guess Carla's had enough of drunken lovers in her life to maybe do her a lifetime, that maybe she doesn't need another one. And maybe Carla finding this endearing was maybe not quite the red flag that it should have been.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It is a little weird that she's kind of acted like Peter.
I will happily admit that I cooed when Swain and Carla kissed. And I cooed...
As did every straight man watching that scene.
No, I think they went like, "Fwar." It wasn't a "fwar." I was like, "Ooh," like I did at the start.
Right, but all the other straight men said "fwar."
But do it properly.
I can't. I'm not a straight man.
Fwar.
Well, I have nothing to jack off. So.
I'm not jacking anything up, but
you are with your other hand.
Fwar. There I am. I'm not doing it. But and into the commercial break. I thought that it was done so well. Don't bother getting dressed. I'm going to see what this is like. I thought that was good. I think maybe it's come a little bit early in the relationship. I would have liked this to be maybe delayed by a week or two.
Right, and maybe just kissing and then talking about it instead of whatever they thought that they were doing in Ryan's room.
With their clothes on.
With their clothes on.
First Bobby was in the corner.
In the closet, just
rocking himself.
Rocking back and forth.
And maybe not masturbating. But
oh!
to his aunt.
But
I like the fact that it kind of turned into a little comedy moment when Swain comes out and says, "Get back in here, you." I like that.
Fully clothed.
I like that. And hey, who hasn't had a relationship that started off with sex? Before even, I don't know, holding hands or anything.
Certainly nobody in this room.
But, so I think So I liked all of that. What I really didn't like was, while they're still in the afterglow, Swain becomes entirely unreasonable that this has been a mistake. She should have been focusing on Bessie, even though she doesn't know what that even looks like, because she's never really done it. And when they're in the pub and Betsy is accusing her mum of getting her hole, and let's remember...
And throwing a drink on Carla.
And let's remember, during Becky's birthday, Betsy's entirely trying to get her hole off a mason.
Yeah, we don't see her put flowers on Becky's grave. We don't even know where
Because
Becky's grave
exist.
is.
Because it doesn't exist. But
They want us to they want us to believe that these two people care very much for this dead person that we will never meet, and yet we never actually see them care for this dead person that we will never meet. We don't see her put flowers on Becky's grave. We just hear about it. We don't even see the flowers.
But Betsy seems to be really upset that her mum was successful in doing something that she herself was unsuccessful in doing, which was spending Becky's birthday having sex.
Yeah. And instead being intimidated by the person that she wants to have sex with, his brothers. Did you find it a little weird how scared Betsy looked in that confrontation? She looked less scared with Joel, who we actually know is capable of causing bodily harm to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden she's terrified all the time when confronted by men, when before she was incredibly self-assured,
Yeah.
which got her into trouble.
Yeah, it was actually maybe not a fantastic quality, but it was something that, oh, well, she holds her own. Like, she
Right.
won't be intimidated
Yeah.
here. Perhaps
And
to
now-
her detriment, but
And now she's scared of Little Deck.
yeah.
Little Deck!
Oh, dear. No, I liked the fact that they got together. I would have preferred it to have been maybe stretched out a little bit more, just to makes the payoff a little bit better. But I thought they handled it really well. I just don't think that having this been a week of things taking a dip was a great idea.
Yeah.
Because you kind of finish the week thinking, oh, well, Betsy's doing over Carla here, and that's not a great place.
No.
When Carla has been the one that's believed in her, arguably more than Swain has.
Yes. And has been arguably a better parent to Betsy than Swain has.
Yeah. Well, that was the week that was Coronation Street. Helen, tell me, what was your moment of the week?
For me, that wasn't my moment of the week.
That was my moment of the week.
My moment of the week is Mason and Roy talking about patisserie. But we will go with your moment of the week.
Thank you.
For all of the horny men who love to watch women kiss wetly and loudly on television.
Not that I'm chasing likes. That is our...
John Doe has the upper hand.
Honestly, I'm not doing this deliberately.
What doing there?
It's on the other board. I had to move back to this board. That's our
Moment of the week.
Moment of the
bottom
week.
middle. Bottom middle is moment of the week. Bottom middle on this board. Your boring moment of the week?
Ken talking about vitamin D. You think we can do better than that? That whole scene of, oh, welcome back, Granddad, from your vacation that it looks like you just walked down the street from.
You dressed up as Amanda Del Monte for this. Oh, fine. You gave me the moment of the week. I will happily give you it.
Boring moment
Thank you.
of the week.
Now, on Twitter, because you still can't do polls on Blue Sky,
Yeah.
I ask our followers to rate this week's episodes on a scale of yay, meh, or zzz. And this week's voting was much improved from last week, would you believe? With zzz getting 23.5%, meh getting 26.5%, and yay getting 50% of the vote. So a positive week for lots of people that I'm sure is Swarla based almost exclusively.
Yes.
But of course,
do the Swarla people really like it? Because then they immediately break up.
yeah, that's going to be temporary, isn't it? But
It's still annoying.
it's very much annoying. But of course, we don't let those scores influence our score. But Helen, what would your score for this week's show be out of 10? Last week, I think you gave it a 6.5.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because last week was the whole reveal of who killed JR. I mean, Joel.
Yes.
Yes. Why do soaps always do this? Since the 80s. I enjoyed most of it. But I feel like the whole Dee Dee stuff that just really pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the Ken and Carla stuff annoying me because of Betsy and Cassie both taking a dip back into the bad aspects of their personalities when we thought that they were reformed. And just
Out of 10, Helen.
out of 10. It was really just 6.5 last week. I thought I'd give it higher than that.
No, I think you give it 6.5, and I give it 5.5.
Oh,
For me, it was a better week as well.
last week?
This week.
No. Well, I was saying that last week was a better week.
Oh, for me, this week was better.
5.
I think I'll give it a 7 this week. I enjoyed
Really?
it. Yeah, I enjoyed most of it.
You didn't like the Dee Dee stuff?
I didn't like the Dee Dee stuff, but it didn't feel like it took up an awful lot at the time, and it did give me something to laugh at, which was Dee Dee getting hit in the stomach by the
Tennis
tennis
ball.
ball was hilarious. When she goes, oof, and doubles over.
And Sarah's like, we gotta get you to a hospital.
Why?
Well, let's remember, she's probably 3 months pregnant as opposed to, 2 weeks.
I can
or
see
6
the head.
weeks. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
All right, let's wrap this one up then. This
Yeah.
episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast: Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Trisha, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, English Victoria, Aurora Yvonne, Heather Westerfield, Russell Whiting, Jackie B, Brittany Porter, Laurie Anna, Tina, Colin Burt, Stephen and Leah. Thank you so very much, folks. We really appreciate it. If you've ever got your hole because you were sad, don't write in to tell us about it. We're at talkofthestreet@gmail.com, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and more notably Blue Sky, which is turning out to be quite the Corrie community now.
Yes.
Or you can reach us the old-fashioned way, the Talk of the Street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street, or patreon.com/the Talk of the Street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store, YouTube channel and blog, and if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice, and be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
Oh, I was prepared for this, and then I just kind of zoned out. Hold on.
Thanks for making
No,
it to the...
stop! No! Titanic was too long to watch this week.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode, and we will be back next week with more
Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.